be able to impact this game. And T1's team fight, not just have they got cores that do well against the Razor, it's like these cores all synergize well to get together. Like you've got this huge Queen of Pain burst damage for Chrono, the Mars Arena, and it just feels like T1 have put together a very solid draft.
Yeah, it's true, because they also proposed earlier, right, with the Void, so that now we know this is a Void draft to a degree, right, and everything's measured with that, whereas, as Chipo said, we're still not sure what TNC, what the big core of the draft is. Which is, on one side, good, because T1 won't be able to respond to it. Is there any here you think here that's like, can take away the game, can solo carry, even despite the Razor's weak?
It depends what they're trying to do. So they have team fight, right? They have some damage. I don't think they have like a lot of damage, so I would like to see a last pick here that is able to just output as much damage as possible. It's kind of sad because a lot of range heroes struggle into Mars just because of how Arena works. Like Luna, who's traditionally pretty good against Mars, is banned out, right? Because the glaives bounce through the arena. Terrorblade's gone. Medusa's still in the pool, but she doesn't really do a lot of damage for a long time, so I don't know. And there's no real like synergy with Darkseid outside of Nyx to like to put an Ion Shell on, right, and like have them go in and just do as much damage as possible.
Feels like they're better off getting like maybe like a Morphling type hero where it's like you can do magic damage as well that doesn't maybe worry about the bulwark as much. Oh, sorry, Morphling they banned themselves. I was just kidding. Yeah, and I think this is a trap. These teams, you know, like we got last pick of the draft, we're gonna last pick this hero, but then you get there and you're like, oh, everything that's good against their draft is banned, and it's just sometimes this like moment where like they've used over a minute thinking about this last pick, which is meant to be their boom, gotcha, we just won the draft with 10th pick, but what is that hero? We're gonna find out soon enough. But
okay, I like that a lot.
Yeah, okay. Explain why she.
Great again. I mean, obviously lives through the Chrono, because what T1's game plan is going to be is they want to kill you in one go. Like they want, this isn't a sustained fight, right? This is we're using Arena, we're using Chrono, we're killing you now, right? Wraith King lives through that. Wraith King's enabled by Ion Shell. Wraith King is gonna do that damage we talked about with the crit, with whatever build he goes, because people go Armlet and Death and stuff. It's good. It's like a nice last pick for them.
Thoughts? What can we expect from this?
I think TNC may struggle in the lanes. I think T1's just so good with their early game that they may just kind of snowball, but I'd like to see if TNC can put up a good showing.
What I'd like to see as well is what the casters that we have to think about the game. So just welcome here to the panel electronically. It's MLP and John Xfire.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We are in DAD Division 1, and it is MLP, Dota, and John Xfire. John, welcome, sir. Game 1 of the whole Tour 1. How you doing?
Doing great. Should be an exciting match. As the panelists mentioned, you know, TNC has had a bit of an up and down. The new roster has been a little bit shaky, but we heard from Febby. I think that might be the sleeve. You know, they don't know what's happening with their team. Other teams wouldn't know. So maybe they catch T1 by surprise. T1's been down low for quite a while as well. We haven't seen the boys play Dota in a while. And hopefully they have been playing Dota, because as we know from interviews with Cuckoo, they've been watching anime, they've been playing other games. So maybe more disciplined them to focus in. You know, Savage at least plays a lot of Dota. So we'll see if that will be a factor, but this should be a jam-packed match to kick us off here.
Absolutely. We are into game number 1 here between T1 and TNC, set to get underway. I wonder what games they have been playing, Jonathan. We've had chats with these boys. Been very, very upset with the options they've had for themselves in their free time. In the games, of course, because you know, God forbid we bring those up. My goodness. Hopefully they got some Dota in.
Oh yeah. I mean, at least, you know, we see Savage. He's a very Dota-centric person. He's been focused. At least you can depend on your pause one here to go back and forth. But it should still be quite the back and forth match. You know, that last pick, Wraith King, just a direct counter to Chrono. You're going to have to kill Young God twice. And we've talked a little bit about Young God in other tournaments. This guy's a promising player. Hasn't had that much exposure. Let's see if he carries through here.
Oh, let one team fight. Gonna start straight off the back. Cuckoo looking to be in trouble, but they're going to try and fight back. It's not looking good, though. Cuckoo trying for a run. Still one right click away from dying. Meanwhile, towards the north, they are still going at it, but nobody's dead yet. 23 Savage now, trying to loop around from the side, but can't get to the high ground of that Radiant Triangle. It's like TNC, they're just going to keep aggressively posturing against T1. And they'll be alright, nobody will die. Somehow Cuckoo does get back to the fountain. TNC, at the very least, should be able to swipe themselves 3 bounty runes for their trouble. Unless Whitemon can take it off Xiaoyu, but not quite. So 3-for-1 trade already. Very aggressive start from TNC. And John, yeah, it is SK. I mean, this is the first game of the DPC. I needed a quick pause. There we go, all over. We're back into it.
Yeah, just a quick pause to make sure everything's set up right. I have to say the commitment from TNC, we've seen them do this a couple of times in those different tournaments out there. They go for that aggressive play, the smoke wrap around through the triangle. Doesn't pay off, and that does force certain levels to be popular. Like Yoa playing that mid Razor already has to go for the early plasma field, so Carl can actually just opt for the lane dominant build, you know, going for the dagger, going for the scream pain. No need for the blink, and there's no threat of the link. And that mid matchup for Yoa now just gets a bit slower at level 1. I think Carl understands he can harass out, use the dagger, regen some HP, and try to zone out Yoa to get that initial farm going in this matchup.
Absolutely, and of course down at the bot lane, we're looking at that right now. You've got Playhard and Xiao Yu against Whitemon and 23 Savage. In terms of this laning phase, John, it doesn't really feel like TNC have got the best ways of slowing Savage down. I mean, sure, you can kind of trickle away at his HP, but eventually he's just going to keep time walking away. And again, I kind of question what TNC does in this side lane to try and make T1's life a little bit more challenging.
It's that level 3 spike we're looking for, especially from the Darkseer. You love to point it out, Mike. When they have that double Iron Shell at level 2, you can deal a lot of damage. And for a Void, it's a bit awkward. That's damage over time. It's not something that you can easily manage with your Time Walk, especially with the cooldowns at level 1. And you have to remember, with a Void now as well, you tend to go for early value points and time dilation. So spamming out the Iron Shell, spamming out the Impales aren't going to be as easy, and that just allows Savage to kind of control the lane. It's still going to be annoying. The Iron Shell still fly through, but our Void isn't really zoned out. You can see Savage 7-2 having a good time with the initial few waves here.
Certainly so. Xiao Yu's the one dropping quite low on HP now. Savage just freely farming away as he does go on to Playhard. Impel's going to be way off the mark, and they don't even get the range creep either, so a bit of a miss there from Playhard as... Oh, it's already a bit of a struggle here, but I suppose we should have a look at the top lane as well. You've got Young God and Febby up against Zephyr, and of course Cuckoo on the Mars. Cuckoo somehow not dying earlier on. Couldn't quite believe it even to this point. Talk to me about this lane though, Jonathan. Do you expect T1 to have any issues here? Do you think Young God maybe struggles a bit here on the Wraith King? What are we expecting?
I think it's really important for the Disruptor to actually stand forward, use all his mana pool. We talked a little bit about this early on, Mike. You have to use that Thunder Strike to zone out the enemy, to ensure the lane's free. This is a bit of a shakeup for Febby. Most recently, his most comfy pause 5 has been really sacrificial and healing.
Playhard. Yeah, he's going to go down here, John. Whitemon able to pick up the kill. Xiao Yu unable to do anything to help, and it kind of goes back to the duo. Like, you expect domination from this duo, but against the Bane, it's already hard enough, and against Savage, he's been unaffected. Whitemon's just held them at bay all laning phase.
Yeah, and if you can't leverage that early spike with that Darkseer, you're going to have to play greedy here. You're not slowing down in farm. One of the shortcomings of the Void is that farming pace, and it looks like Savage is going to be set to go. So it's a big win for T1 to just get this early start. To ensure Savage has that quick farm up towards the Mask of Madness, maybe just a quick Falcon Blade, and you're ready to go. And then you can play with those Kisses combos once level 6s are up. So yeah, I think for TNC, they have to be careful with this lane. If they don't get that running start for Xiao, farming for a while.
He somehow avoided the impale there, John. Whitemon, he's out. Playhard barely surviving himself thanks to the stick charges. I don't know how Whitemon keeps doing this, but he survives another time. Keep in mind as well, he's holding on to all his skill points here on the Bane, so well, there you go. Eventually he does get the brain set, he does need the HP, but now Playhard's on the run. Poor old Playhard, again, just can't really get too much done in this laning phase. He's going to have to make his way back towards the T1 tower. All things being said and done, John, looking like a very clean game so far for T1. When you look at the CS board as well, Cuckoo not really struggling whatsoever in the off lane. So you've got your safe lane on off lane going very well. In the mid lane, pretty even right now in terms of CS, so you'd have to argue T1 just well and truly ahead.
And their timings are a little bit faster with that team fight potential as well. So we find another kill. Young God this time falling down. So the top lane still tough here for the side of TNC. And even on bot, they're still dropping low all over the place. It's just been a lot of aggression from T1, which is not really what you expect when you've got these supports. Maybe the off lane's a bit more aggressive, but certainly that bot lane, as you mentioned, like TNC, they're just not doing enough. And I think Savage is going to have a really good time once he gets even just one initial item up. He's going to be good to go.
They're trying to go into Whitemon again. Impale's going to be there, but both of them already so low as Whitemon walks away with the stick charges and now turns right back around. Playhard gets bashed on the last hit. Savage gets another kill. Rather, Whitemon takes that one. But what do you care? If you're T1, you're having the freest game of your life so far. TNC just unable to get anything going.
And that's a dangerous spot for them to be in, because when you look at TNC's kind of all their playmaking comes in from off the mid, and even top, again, that aggression coming out from Cuckoo, just punishing Febby so hard.
You love to see it. I mean, Cookie into Spear, just a very easy combination to land for T1 as bot lane. They do end up losing Whitemon, but top lane, Zephyr, is he going to get away from this? The Skeletons are still going to chase him down, and they are actually going to be able to hit him, so he's on the run now. Those Skeletons are taunting Zephyr right now as he tries to get out of range. He's so close to dying, but he's going to be fine. They lose vision, they give up.
It's just on edge, and T1 working every lane to near perfection. Playing so low on HP, Carl gonna get the bottle top up on mid, so he gets to hold that lane a bit longer. I think the only good news for TNC is that mid lane. You know, Razor's finding decent farm, decent levels coming through. Yoa's gonna hit level 6 soon. We've got the Thunder Duel at play, but I don't know if they have enough to follow through here.
Well, Whitemon could be in trouble. Link is going to be there. Kinetic field, way off the mark from Febby. He did not get the glimpse off either, so now the Cookie's back in. Carl, he lands it onto Yoa and takes him down. Just so darn easy right now. As T1 will go for a bit more. Onto play hard, they'll find a double. And Carl's even got a DD rune waiting for him, John. But can you believe that? With everything going completely perfectly here for T1. PNC, not so much.
It's just not lining up for TNC. And when you look at their supports, there can be aggression with the Nyx and Disruptor, but Febby and Playhard has just been so worn out from the side lanes that when they rotate mid or out of mana, they can't really play, they can't really set up. And now TNC has to play a bit of a slower game. Maybe it's time to bank on Young God to farm out really quick. The Skeletons build up onto Wraith King, go for the Armlet Dezu build that we tend to see, and just build yourself around that. But that's going to take some time for that farm to come in, even though you're against the Void. Again, Savage has had such a free lane that you're so far behind that Wraith King that it's going to be hard to actually get the farm.
They've at least got Whitemon. They'll get the Nightmare off, but a nice pick up there for Xiao Yu. They were considering trying to go after the Savage as he did not really have too much mana. Next to the mana burn off, play hard, but in the end they go for the support instead as top lane. We'll have the arena drop very defensively there, I believe, from Team 1. Perhaps they were trying to find the Wraith King, but they get nothing, and Young God, he will taunt them a little bit.
Perfect.
Manages to run away, and I think that's all you really want here for the side of TNC, playing safe. Maybe wasting a couple of those spells. The issue is for T1, that arena's not that long for cooldowns. You can still build, although Savage being dived here.
He is. It looks like he's going to be just fine as mid lane now. Yoa may get caught out. Cookie, it's going to land there from Zephyr. They've got the Sonic Wave out. The third kill of the game already for Carl. He's sitting at almost level 8 on this Queen of Pain at 8 minutes in, John. That's going to be problematic as he gets the next power rune. I was going to say Carl might start making rotations soon, but he just may not need to.
I don't think it's too pertinent for T1, Mike. Like, there's dominating the side lanes with or without that mid. Heck, with or without the supports, they're still doing fine. So I think they can just kind of play this way, keep farming up, get some initial items going, maybe wait out for level 6s on your support. That's when you can really play as a 5-man or even as a trio. Once you have Kisses, once you have Grip, you can play with Arena, play with Chrono, line up, just burst the heroes of TNC down. They're really starting to lag behind, 7-2. 2K lead isn't massive, but we talked about timings. It just feels like TNC needed to be the ones to win out the laning phase. They have the Razor, they have the Darkseer, off to a much slower start than you'd want. And again, when you see a Void going off to this good start, its one weakness is that flash farm. It's not going to be a concern for Savage when he's sitting at number 3 right above every other core, kind of changing spots with Xiao Yu. But our power spike for the Darkseer takes a while. It's going to be Ags, it's going to be Guardian Greaves, the Blink, maybe even Refresh down the line, and that takes way more farm than it does for Savage to just hit an early Maelstrom BKB time.
That it does. 7-2 right now, but a 3k net worth advantage for T1. A lot of talk right now about TNC. I mean, you kind of pointed this out earlier, but they are a brand new team, almost as a 5-stack, so you do expect them to have a bit of a slower start as they do get used to each other. See if they can try to get that mid-game timing going with this draft, though, as big group up down a bot lane right now. Young God, he's rotated in with the surge up. They're going to try and chase down Whitemon, but he's fine. He had perfect vision with that Observer Ward. Scouts out everything to the side of T1. Whitemon walks right out of top lane. Who have they jumped? It's going to be Febby. You generally leave that position 5 behind in the safe lane. Try to give him that free XP, but it's not going to be so free while Cuckoo and Zephyr are around.
And it's going to be an issue. We talked about level 6 timings for supports. The Disruptor really needs that Static Storm as well. In fact, most of your team fights send that Disruptor.
That's a lot of damage, Carl. He'll blink in for it, and he'll pick it up as Playhard is unable to land the stun to try and get something out of this. And he gets another power rune, John. Half of the region now.
Just every single thing lining up here for T1. Even the push down bot not happening here from TNC. And there's always the threat for counterplay now from T1 with a chrono available. So TNC, they're grouped up as 4. They're dedicating their heroes here. They've got level 6 in Febby. They need to find this fight.
I walk away though. Whitemon, he's going to be there with the Nightmare if necessary. And now the TPs are in from T1. They're ready to force the fight. They've got Chrono 1. Savage, he hasn't built it. No, he has. He's got 3 targets in the first Chrono of the game. They'll drop the back wall, but it means absolutely nothing. They just chase them down. Meansgrip out. They've got the rating. They've got everything they can ask for. And Savage, he doesn't even go back for Young God. Eventually does. The Rage King is actually running away, but eventually they will pick him up. At least in the first line. They're just second now with the screw out from Cuckoo. They'll get another kill onto Young God. And TNC will find nothing for their trouble.
That's clean up again from T1, and we talked about it. TNC dedicated so much time bot. They were pressured to force that fight out. They did have levels up, but they couldn't find the angle. They just have no natural way of jumping the backline. There's no highly mobile hero here. You only really have Surge to play with, but there's no surprise factor with the Surge hero coming up. So I think TNC is having a very difficult time until certain blinks are out. I think Xiao Yu's blink is going to be key for TNC, and again, he's trying to build up into the Ags and blink. That's going to take a while. Xiao Yu's going to have to eat some farm space. That's going to slow down the farm of Young God. That's going to slow down the farm of Yoe. And that just means every core is going to be sacrificing themselves here just for you to have some initiation on hand.
The rotation though, down bot. TNC, they smoked up as 3. They really want to try for this tier 1 bot tower. They do find Savage, but they're not within range to get an impale on, so he's fine. Debbie not able to reach for the Grimstack either, but they've got Zephyr. It's something. Right now, you'll take whatever you can get. If you are TNC, Yoe will happily take that kill on the Razor. In the meantime, they should be able to secure that bottom tier 1 tower. My only problem is though, if you're T1, you're probably going to just head mid and start harassing the mid tier 1 instead. As we always talk about, John, it's a much more valuable tower if they get away with it, but TNC, they've read that. They're moving over. Play hard in the Vendetta, looking for a target.
Dire's middle tower is under
meanwhile,
attack.
he's jumped in, he wants Young God. The reincarnation's not up. Won't have the backup. Not quite yet. Still in the mid lane. Savage about to break out. Savage is there. They'll make the jump in onto Xiao Yu. And it'll be a nasty kill, I think, as Yoe and Playhard try to help out, but well, Playhard, he's having a rough game, John. There's been a lot of impels not landing this game 1. Fortunately for TNC, they continue to get punished for it. Like, look at this, T1. Smoked up, they found Young God, and Whitemon just bounces his way over the tree line. With the Tumbler's toy, Febby, he's going to try and turn now, but you've got the Mortimer's kisses up. They cannot sustain themselves through this amount of damage as Cuckoo comes in, cleans up again. They'll even just leave Play Hard. Just leave him be. No need for the next assassin right now. It's Cuckoo. He'll be chased down. Yoe wants to try and find a trade, but Whitemon is going to put him to sleep, or at least get a vacuum wall off onto the boss fight main. That's about all they've got so far. In fact, Whitemon, he's not dead yet, but does quickly go down to Zephyr. He jumps back in. Not sure about that one with Savage. He's there with the 2-man chrono now. Turn right back around onto Yoe with a big sonic wave onto Playhard and the Razor. It's just clean gameplay, John. It's just too clean.
Yeah, T1. I mean, they're in form, Mike. You know, we had some doubts coming in, right? They were out of the scene for a while. They weren't playing in any tournaments at all in the build-up towards the DPC, but it looks like they've spent that time well. They've gotten practice down. They're executing as a team really well. Like, their movements is 4, their movements is 5. Reading the movement of TNC, counteracting, counter-engaging every single time. Just smoked back a while ago from bot into that mid-engagement, just lining up for T1 to keep that aggression going. And for TNC, again, it's all a bunch of forced fights here, Mike. Like, Xiao Yu forced to use the back wall on a support, and that's your main CC, that's your main team fight control on top of that with a Static Storm kinetic field. And it's just not Cuckoo just wants to go ahead without Savage.
It's not a pub game, Cuckoo. Hold on. Wait for your carry, sir. Where you go? Savage is back, they'll get back to it. Very rough times. I mean, you're kind of looking for a mid-game power spike here from TNC with this style of draft, John, but I start to question whether that's ever going to come. We're 14.5 minutes in, and with the 6k net worth deficit, it does feel like TNC are going to have to start looking to play for the late game with their Wraith King. I suppose you do have a Darkseid that does scale quite nicely as well, but it does concern me, especially when you're going into a Quap, a Void, a Mars, a Snapfire. Very, very scary stuff.
I think scaling into late for TNC still works, but I just worry about T1 when they have all those tools on hand. Like Void versus Wraith King is a weird one, because obviously you kind of force to wait for Chrono on second life, and then it's a question of whether or not Void has enough damage to deal with that second life anyway, but you have the follow-up from T1. I think for TNC there's still a bit of a mid-game pressure here. You want your Wraith King to hit that armlet Desolator timing with a Blink BKB, and you have to play around that. So it's less late game, more mid game I think that we need to see TNC hit. And so far T1's doing a great job of just shutting that down. They do lose their bot tower here, Mike, and they haven't managed to get the tower traded, so that's a bit of good news for TNC as they control the bot jungle, but a lot of good wards to protect. Just ensuring that the force find farm. At the same time, they're still kind of clumped around this area. They can't use their top jungle. They know it's a bit unsafe, even though T1 hasn't shown in that area at all. And the top tier one's just slowly being shoved. No one coming in to defend because they're worried about a counter fight with the TP options from T1. So I think TFT's defensive play is losing them some map control and losing them some map efficiency.
Big smoke up now, T1. Well, Smoker's 5. I suppose they've read that movement correctly, John. I mean, you just kind of brought it up, but they are definitely afraid of a big jump coming in here from T1. Mid lane, a bit of a group up here from TNC now. They've smoked up as 3, but it's going to be a 4v5 unless they bring Young God over. But he doesn't really want to join right now as the Wraith King. TNC hoping they just find a bit of a straggler for themselves. They try to approach that Radiant jungle high ground, but Zephyr is around to break the smoke. Play hard, he'll be the first one up though with the Vendetta. He hasn't been spotted yet. Maybe though has. And we'll just walk right away as Zephyr. He'll break the gap, go in, but the cookie's off the mark. Scatterblast, won't land either. Meanwhile, Cuckoo, who's he going for? Young God, he'll jump in. Nightmare's there to save Zephyr. He'll walk right out of there, and now Carl's joined in. They've got Demi straight off the bat in the feed trip. They've already found the Wraith King's first line for Carl. He's dropping one of them. He'll get his BKB every time, but then he's out of there. Big Sonic Wave though from the Quap, and now Young God's in trouble. He tried to chase down Carl, but it does not work out. A 7k advantage now. Savage is looking for a bit more. He's still got the chrono up. He wants to fight, but instead he'll take the Dire triangle.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
All of this goes back to that execution from T1. They have so many ways to approach these fights, Mike. But even if you don't use chrono, even if you don't use Arena, you still have good AoE stuns from your snap. You have good single target control with your Bane. Whereas for TNC, they don't have the hardest lockdown. I think their hardest spell is actually a Great Fire Blast. Like, that's your most reliable stun next to the Impale from Nyx, which, as you pointed out, Playhard hasn't been having the best game in landing combination. I think for TNC, they have to get this blink timing on their darts here. They need the blink vac walls to time in with the Earth, with Impale from Playhard, and that's how you can kind of turn it around. Get the static storm on top. That's their wombo combo. They just can't execute. I think T1's just really playing on the aggressive way too hard here.
Oh, absolutely, John. I mean, if you've got Chrono up, you've got Arena up, you just want to fight. You know how strong you are right now as T1. There's no reason to back off. TNC, however, find a way to defend this mid-tier 1 tower, but I just don't see how you do it as Cuckoo. He jumped in. They found Yomin straight off the bat, so that's your ace are gone, and now play hard. Well, he's going to try to run, but there's no really running here. Carl, he's on it. Cuckoo will take the kill. And now that mid-tier 1 tower, it's as good as gone. The heroes, they were just the cherry on top.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Savage. He found Febby, but he'll get the glimpse back. He should be just fine with the smoke. He's still got that tier 1 mid, no problem.
Dire's middle tower has
Oh,
fallen.
God, no. Bean's grip is up in 3, John. White wants to find his perfectly, but they don't even need it. They don't even need him, and as Young God, he's going to have absolutely no way out of this. He'll try to armor toggle the best he can. Can he actually make it out? Not quite. Skips out for Febby for some reason from Carl. I'm not sure what Febby's done wrong here, but Young God is going to drop.
And that's so big. We talked about the Wraith King matchup versus the Void, Mike. Like, the key thing is that you force Chrono to be held back because of that second life. So far, it's not a factor at all. They will find Cuckoo at least. Can you find a kill?
Will they though, John? I mean, you've still got Chrono up. You've got Kisses up. I mean, everything's available right now for T1 and the Cookie. They got the Razor. This is the Chrono again. Savage, no hesitation. Just right into it. And why would you hesitate? And quite frankly, John, T1, they don't even need these ultis right now. Just no need to hold them, is they'll go right in the Roshan pit, it seems.
Straight approach, nothing to worry about, even though they don't have arena kisses, they still have the grip, or just back off cooldown. TNT, again, their only big play is back wall with Static Storm. We still don't have that point on Xiao Yu. We still don't have the Ags up on the Darkseer, so it's a long time for that power spike. T1 recognized that. Go straight in, free Roshan. You have to admire the early item build-up here as well, Mike. Carl, and Savage are all going for very fast BKBs. We talked about this a bit behind the scenes, like, Static Storm, your key control is just gone. Like, you're not going to find Ags in the boss fight that quick, especially in a game where you're so far behind. So everyone's just ready for it.
They're trying to get anything they can right now. They'll try to just accept the Whitemon kill, but it's not that easy. Whitemon, he's still alive, just barely, but it seems as though T1 will allow this gift to go the way of TNC. Not interested in trying to force it now. They'll accept the fact that they got the Aegis basically for free. TNC, you just kind of accept the time you have. Keep that farm up, try to get Young God nice and healthy on this Wraith King. I mean, you are approaching that timing as well for Xiao Yu now. He's got the Aghanim Scepter coming out on the Darkseer. That is a pretty decent power spike for TNC.
It is. Like the sustain, the double Ion Shell kind of playing really strong with some damage output. And it is already maxed out, so you will be taking some damage there, especially if you chrono them as 2, and they've got the Ion Shells on. The issue is, again, for T1, they're going to have early BKBs anyway. And Savage is not too far off. We already saw Carl's. We're going to see Creepers in a bit as well. Those BKBs for the other 2 cores are going to line up kind of perfectly in sync with that Ags timing on Xiao Yu. And that just takes away the damage output of it. So all you're going to have is like plus 350 HP on the Ion Shell instead. And I don't think that's enough to mitigate the aggression here. I don't think that's going to hold back T1 from just going for these aggressive plays we've seen time and time again, because damage really isn't an issue. I don't think the durability buff from that Ags is going to do enough. I think the blink timing is still the bigger one for Xiao Yu, and again, they've got to wait a little bit longer for that, as they just need more time to farm. It's not just Xiao Yu, they're going to have the Desolator and Young God very soon, Mike, so there's a little bit more damage coming out from TNC. They can maybe handle the back line, but you're going to need a blink and BKB on Young God as well, so there's still a lot of items to farm up before TNC really hits a big spike here.
Yeah, but they're not going to have the time, John. Another 5-man smoke up here from T1. They're just more than happy to rotate around their timings. It's the spell CDs. T1 might find a target in that dire triangle.
Radiant's top tower.
A bit of a scan out. Won't find anyone with that either. But Cuckoo, he'll run into play hard. They don't have the protection yet. In fact, play hard, he's going to try and go in, but Cuckoo, he got the BKB off his time. We'll just force him. He dances around the Nyx Assassin. They'll easily be able to pick this kill up. No problem here for Carl. Finds the mid-tier tower they go. At Carl, he wants to try and force some of the fight. He's onto Youngdog. Sonic Wave trying to push him back, but it's not going to work out. It pushes him up to the high ground instead. Carl, though, he's not done yet. He's into the tier 3 tower. He ends up killing off the Disruptor. Heavy gets tipped again, and he TPs up right in front of their eyes. That's no problem for Carl. Another day in the office.
Yeah, just in and out coming here from T1 and TNC. Your backs are against the wall now. 28-5, 10k lead for T1. They've got a lot to play with. Even though they use their BKBs for support kills, I don't think T1 minds at all, because they save their big spells. They've still got the kisses, they've still got the grip, they've still got the chrono on Savage. There are no worries. Savage still has his BKB, and he's really the most important one with the BKB anyway, to ensure a good chrono goes off. So I think for T1, yeah, they're just gonna wait back a bit, get some more items, go for the smoke play now. Let's see who they catch.
They've got everything. Apart from that Sonic Wave in the arena, but who cares? You've got the chrono, you've got the kisses, that's all you really need. TNC, they are on the low ground right now. This could be a bit of a disaster position. But the Savage is going to dump in another great chrono. He found 2 primary targets and the kisses. They are going to go right in for free. Already found the first one, but now Yoe. He's been caught out by Whitemon. He'll try to run with his BKB up the Savage, and Carl will just chase him down to the end of the earth. Eventually, he will drop it. They continue down the arena. It's back up. Zephyr, he does finally end up going down. Young God, in the meantime, is somehow still alive. In fact, they found the Aegis on Savage, but it won't matter. The caught up, no problem, as Young God does finally drop him the second time. And play hard, well, he just fought back.
Has fallen.
Will be surged away by Zhao Yu. Another unsuccessful team fight here from TNC as T1 done some great targets themselves, and but TNC, they only got Zephyr.
T1, their coordination as a team is just so on point. You know, coming in from TI, not playing for a while, but they are coordinating so well. They're using these spells so well. Their cooldowns are all lined up. Their BKB uses have been on point. Their target priority is really big one. Like while Chrono goes off, you bait in the Razor, you force out his BKB, and then you get a grip off. And because the Nyx is stuck in that Chrono, he doesn't have the stun to stop that grip. They lack the control to counteract, and TNC, the coordination just isn't quite there yet. They've got the damage up on Young God. They still need the Blink to be up in Xiao Yu. They still need the BKB on Young God. There's still so much more they need to farm up, but as you pointed out, Mike, it just doesn't feel like T1's giving them time. They're just constantly on the aggressive. They managed to play with the Aegis, and it only had like half a minute left when it popped on Savage. So even the timing on that item use is near perfection from T1. The TNC just needs to find an opening. They just need one big kill. If they can isolate one of the big, fatter heroes on T1, that could stall out long enough for them to bounce a little bit.
Another nice arena. He's got Femi right off the back. Zhao Yu though, gonna blink in, trying to get something done, but the BKB's there already up. Now Savage just walks in. In fact, it's rewind time, John. He's got the rewind button. Chance are up for Savage. He just becomes infinitely harder to kill now in that void. They are still looking in towards that mid-tier 2 tower. TNC, they are going to posture. They're going to try and stick around and force back T1, and they will do so. You still have about 7 seconds for the Chrono to be back up here for Savage. TNC, but they still need so much time. That 14k deficit, it's just been rough for them. They just haven't had the space.
Radiant's top tower has been
It's just not
denied.
enough room to really build up. TNC is going to go for a smoke play now, but they're pretty blind on the map. They don't have very aggressive wards forward. So you look at T1's wards all behind the tier 2s. They're the ones who want to set the pace and be aggressive. They could use this opportunity to get that forward vision out. I don't think they're really planning on a kill, and they do at least ping out. Looks like T1 managed to read that movement, hold back, stay as a team, but they're on tier 1. So the smokes, it's not a complete bust for TNC, as they do need a vision out, but you're just not finding the kills, right? You're just not finding the openings, and T1 could make use of this and start going on the hunt themselves.
Dire's middle tower is under
Scan
attack.
out does actually catch Xiao Yu in the radiant triangle, but that won't matter because T1, they just want the T2 mid. They'll force the rotation back from TNC, or they'll just take the tower. Carl will just keep going at it, no problem. And T1, it's rather T2 is gone.
Has fallen.
No defense to come from TNC. They accept the fact that they cannot fight into all the ultimates available right now on T1. Thing is though, in the meantime, T1, they might just get started on that bottom tier 2 tower and eventually just go back up top. TNC eventually are going to have to try and address this issue. It seems like now is not the
Radiant's
time.
top tower is under attack.
Maybe you just wait out Young God's BKB first, but even then, you know, Fiend's Grip, Chrono, these spells, they do not care about your BKB.
It just makes it so hard for TNC to position themselves. They have to stay really split up. At the same time, they need to try and make T1 group up. They just haven't been given that opening, and you can see them just taking over that top jungle, taking the farm, grabbing the outpost, opening up the next Roshan here. We still have the tier 2 top for TNC to TP into. That next Rosh in a minute and a half, if a fight breaks out, that could just really give you another free Roshan here for T1 if you're not careful on TNC's end.
Yeah, absolutely. You see Play Hard of the Knicks right now just trying to get some information for his team as they are going to spot out Carl. In fact, Carl, he jumps right into him. You do have Young God around, but he's going to TP away.
Attack.
Play Hard, he might stalk Carl for a little bit, but in the end, there's not really much they can do. So you're just kind of waiting up the next Roshan timing and maybe just trying to fight T1 in the Roshan pit. But even then, they've got a great Roshing lineup. They'd be more than happy, I'm sure, to fight in that pit if it came to it. You've got about 40 seconds for that, though.
Just a little bit more time. TNC can use this time to maybe
Radiant's
get some more
bottom
farm going. They've got the triangle under control, so there's a source of income now for Young God. They still build in and finish that BKB. He will go for the BKB first instead of Blink. I think he's holding out Blink money just in case, but he figures that as long as he's not in Chrono, you know, he can do work with a BKB up. That's gonna force Whitemon to make a choice with a grip. Although we have seen him make the right choices before. Once he sees the BKB and the Razor, just instant grip there. But now he has to kind of choose between the Razor and the Raging. So that could complicate the fights for T1 if they're not in the right position. But again, using this time to farm means that T1's just lined up for Roche. They see the respawn. They're going to go straight into it. And again, the map is pretty dark for TNC. They don't know where T1 is. And that just limits their response. They could try to make that play. But the shot need to move fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Roshan, not the fastest, but not the slowest either. Problem is TNT, they are not reacting whatsoever to this Roshan. So it's going to go the way of T1 for 3. He charged up as well. You've already got one on Savage and Carl, so it's a matter of who you want to give it to, but Cuckoo might take it himself. In fact, Savage has got it in his own backpack. You can't have another one, Savage, and well, eventually he does give it over to Cuckoo.
But Cuckoo already has his up, so maybe Whitemon? Actually, Zephyr is. They all have it, so Whitemon gets the freebie. Everyone has the shard already. Zephyr already had one, so Whitemon gets it. He's gonna have the bonus on the Brain Sap now. AoE, even more damage coming through for T1 to play with when everyone's pumped up from TNC. And the lead's just massive now, Mike. 32 to 6, 17k, 18k lead. TNC still holding on as long as possible. Their high ground defense is strong. Again, if you get a good back wall and a static storm on top, you can play. But I think that's going to be their best angle here. Just play high ground.
Febby. Oh, Febby. Oh, he ends up going down there to Carl. He tried to go for the Glimpse back, but the Lincoln Sphere was already up. He just gets blown up immediately by Carl, and now a big smoke is there. T1, who have they found? Oh, he gets caught out right in the BKB. They cannot stop Savage in this Chrono. He'll go after play hard, but now the beat is up in the arena. Will to be dropped here by T1. Yo, it just gets blown apart as they even found Xiao Yu. Young God, he's the only man left, but it's not looking great for him. He's trying to get underneath those C4 towers, but they're not safe either. Savage, he's happy to fight. Coop or Carl? Carl's linked in. Static Storm has been dropped, but he's got the BKB up. He's just manning up here. He'll blink right back away, but now Savage is back in, but he rewinds again. Yoe, well, he knows he can't fight. But you've got Aegis up on Savage. There's not really too much to be afraid about. TNC. Gonna just kind of watch as their home burns right now. T1, they will not be able to go after another lane of barracks yet. There are 2 out of towers left. But getting that mid-rank is a pretty tough, great start of the RP. It's Cuckoo. Tries for a cheeky spear onto the Ancient, but won't quite get it. Savage, he'll threaten, but again, no Chrono up. That'll be enough for T1, they'll back.
A big win for T1. TNC was forced to buy back on a lot of heroes just to get the defense going, and they still lose the racks. T1 has a massive window. Age is still up for 2 minutes 40 here. They could look for the bot, or they could look for the top and just shove in, find another set of racks, play slow and easy. I think once you get the next set of racks, you might be able to end if you're on the side of T1. I think they understand once they get the diebacks going, there's not going to be a window for TNC to defend. And even if they do manage to get buybacks back going, we've seen what happens. TNC, when they lose their team fight spells, they just don't have an angle, right? Like we saw Febby before buying back already used the Static Storm. So when he bought back, he didn't have that option. We already saw the early vac wall from Xiao Yu as well. So it just limits the counter fight for TNC since they're so reliant on his cooldowns.
Savage, he saw play hard there for a second. They'll make the jump in. Savage is right on his tail, but doesn't have the dust. Nor does Carl. They are still trying to find play hard. Never mind, they ignore him. They'll just go onto the creep wave and get started on that tier 2 tower. Play hard. They'll spot out Carl, but it's not that easy of a target to take down. Especially with that BKB up. In fact, now play hard, he's the only man down that bot lane anyway. Everyone's left. Does he want to cancel TP? Yeah, he will. He'll get the cancellation off. Carl will try to turn now, but should not have enough. And he won't. The top lane shot, Zephyr has rotated onto Young God with the scatter blast. It's off the mark. Savage, he'll still move in. They've got the Chrono up if they need it. They probably won't, considering how much damage Savage is doing right now. In fact, now the spear round does have to drop the Febby. He's just going to die to the bottom of his kisses. And now they've got the breaking, trapped up in the beat grip, through the BKB out. Young God is gone. Yo, he shows up like savage. He gets another great chrono. On the two heroes into the arena of Cuckoo. It's just clinical. It is an absolute clinical. Xiao Yu gets a big vacuum off, but the GG's been called. They have seen enough. The T1, they clean up game number 1 against TNT Predator. And I'll tell you what, John, wasn't even close.
It really wasn't. T1 just played a masterclass game. You know, their execution was on point, their coordination as team was up there. You can see them all cool.